Good morning to all of you here in the sanctuary at the First Unitarian Church of Alton, and greetings to everybody who is watching the service remotely. So if you're watching, we can all wave and say hi, everybody. Good. I'm Robin Berkeley. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve as the president of this congregation and also serve as a worship associate. With us this morning in the pulpit is Kohenet Reverend Dr. Claudia Hall, who serves in many roles, including as our consulting minister here at First UU, as a parent advocate at Cardinal Glennon Children's Medical Center, and as Missouri's first Kohenet or Jewish priestess. We are pleased to report next year she will take the lead on coordinating our RE program for the youth. Yay! We welcome everyone to this home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope. We are Unitarian Universalists. We open our service with a prelude by our accompanist, Joy. Thank you. An important ritual in the Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. Unitarian Universalists have many different interpretations of the flaming chalice, including the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. Join me in celebrating all of these reasons and more. If you're watching elsewhere and have a chalice or candle, please light it now as we all join in saying the unison words projected on the screen above. We hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage.
Today, we are focusing on the ideal of the beloved community and what this sacred covenant means for each of us and how we can best live our values together, knowing that none of us is perfect. Following this service, we will be working together to create a right relationships covenant that will guide us in the decision that this church faces in the next few months, including the stay or go discussion. As you are willing and able this morning, I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. Beloved community, force that is made from all of us and yet which transcends each of us, we ask that we be gentle with ourselves, with each other, and with the uncertainties of this unfolding process, trusting that as we open ourselves to love, we will find possibilities beyond our wildest dreams. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to remain seated and join us in our opening hymn, number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath, and the words will also be up on the screen. It is a tradition here at First UU Alton to place each service within the larger sources and principles that we, as Unitarian Universalists, hold dear. While we are a religion with no requirement of creed or belief, we do have things that we support overall. And the service today is coming from a grand conjunction of all of our principles and sources. I want to take a moment and read each of our principles aloud, and after each one, I will give us a moment of silence so we can reflect on how this particular community is helping you live into these noble ideals of our faith. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Number 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Number 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large. Number 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Number 7, respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we all are a part.
All the things. Yeah, it's okay. It's just like, where did all the things go? Sorry. As part of our weekly worship service, we take time for the expression of joys and concerns or sorrows. Today, there are some electric candles up here in the front, or battery powered, really. But I invite everyone who would like to light a candle representing what is in their heart or thoughts to come forward, practicing social distancing, of course, and light a candle. So come down this way, up this way, and then just exit back that way, please. So leave the lit candle on the tray. And while we're doing that, if there's anybody that wants to verbally express any joys or concerns or sorrows, we welcome that. It's in your heart. Okay. So please, you may begin. take a moment to ground ourselves, to be open and ready for the message from Claudia as it comes through, as well as to be open for the discussion that we will have after church regarding our right relationship covenant. We will do the best we can to develop it today and then bring it to the congregation for a vote at our annual meeting, which I think we decided is probably going to be in mid-July, July 15th or 17th. 17th, sorry. Getting the calendar all messed up, Claudia. Sorry. And Claudia will be here to help us with the overall discussion. So anyway, let's take a moment for some grounding and for a moment of silence. Get ourselves ready. Our next hymn is Love Will Guide Us. It's number 131 in the Gray Hymnal and projected up on the wall. Guide us, Jesus, guide us.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is such an honor to be here with all of you. Every time I'm here, there's more people in the seats, and I can tell there's more online. It's just a wonderful feeling to see the church sort of blossoming again after the long period of pandemic. I know our world, especially in our country, is full of so many emotions right now. And together, this congregation has been engaging in this process of mourning and recovery that it has been profound to witness this with you and to walk on this journey. Today, we're dealing with what is the final step of the official recovery, a step that'll mark a transition from grieving the past to looking forward to what the future holds. Of course, we all know that the grief process is not so straightforward or linear. And while we may be looking forward to this moment, the time to reflect and ponder and grieve will always come again. Life, instead of being a straightforward journey, is in many ways more a spiral of events, reactions, and reflections. And it is with that mindset that I invite you to join with me both in this message and after the service in the covenant-making process as we seek to ask ourselves, how can we best be in relationship with one another, bringing our whole selves to this table of relationship at this time and place? Most of us know just how hard it is to be authentic in a relationship. We're taught by society very early on to present this facade to the world, and even often to ourselves. Whether it is our looks, our emotions, our thoughts and words, They are all rigidly policed by society to the point that very little of what we do is truly authentic, even with those we love. A great example of this, and a basic one that most of us engage with a lot of very often in everyday life, is when someone says, "How are you?" Society expects you to give a positive response no matter what your actual circumstances are, especially for those of us who work in service-oriented industries where we're giving of ourselves to others in some way. We are demanded to give a pleasant, professional, polite response, even if the truth is my back hurts, my best friend is dying of cancer, and I'm not sure how I'm going to put food on my table this week. What we're expected to say is, "Oh, I'm doing well. How about yourself?" With good friends, you can sometimes lower your guard to an extent, but it is a rare, rare person indeed that you can answer with the depth of your feelings, positive or negative. In fact, mental health is such a crisis in our country today that most people can't even answer authentically to themselves, much less to others. We've talked a lot recently about this main principle of trauma-informed care, how strong emotions mean something is going on deep inside. Using that as a paradigm for our lives can go a long way to help us get past some of these socially enforced masks and to look at the deeper things in our lives. When strong emotions are not seen as scary or bad or forbidden or bad manners, when instead they're seen as invitations to look at our hearts as places in need of healing, we can start to unravel this social programming that keeps us from truly engaging in covenantal relationships. However, I cannot emphasize enough that this unraveling is not the work of one Sunday message or one Sunday morning. It is, in fact, the work of at least one lifetime, if not many. And it is not an easy thing to do, because the commitments and goals and promises, the emotional and social entanglements that come with covenant require a total devotion that is generally lacking in our consumerist and often narcissistic society. To look at another and see them as a full being and not simply as how they relate to you is the work of a lifetime. To look at yourself and see yourself as a full being, not simply based on how you relate to the world, is the work of a lifetime. Many times when I've worked with folks who are aging or who are disabled, and they say that one of the hardest things for them is when they meet someone new, because the first thing that person says is, "Oh, so what do you do for a living?" If you cannot answer that question with something that is socially acceptable, you are automatically seen as lesser in so much of our society. And it can truly be this incredibly triggering event for people who have to stammer and stumble and either open up and admit to things that maybe are private and that they don't want to share with the whole world, or they have to lie, which is something that only furthers the processes that we're talking about of trauma and pain. So being able to look at others as entities in themselves worthy, what is it we say? The worthy of worth and dignity, the inherent worth and dignity. You don't matter just because I'm here and you're paying me. You matter because you're an entity of infinite value and worth. Whether or not I ever meet this person, they are of infinite value and worth. Whether or not I am able to speak, or whether or not I am able to sing, as the hymn just said, I am a person of value and worth. Now, one of the covenants that we know best is the marriage covenant. And there is often in the traditional language a vow that says, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Now, that is the traditional Christian ceremony, and the words are different in different religious bases, but this is the one that most of us in America are familiar with. And as we all know, many relationships do not survive those vows being put to those tests. That is not a value judgment on the people involved. I myself have been divorced. But it is an indication, this 50% or so rate in our country, it is an indication of just how incredibly difficult it is to show up day after day and adhere to these covenants when the society is trying to force you to do so many things. When neither person, one or the other, or both, neither, when they cannot be authentic with who they are, the inevitability of divorce, of pain, of suffering becomes complete. To show up for yourself, for others you love, and for your values and beliefs when they are tried and tested is incredibly difficult. Religions, all religions, incorporate processes of confession and absolution. They may not call them that, but these are processes by which an individual admits that they did not live up to the values they claim and that they need to try again. People fail over and over again. Having a right relationships covenant in this church will not keep people from failing. It will not keep you from saying things you shouldn't. It will not keep you from thinking things you shouldn't. And it certainly won't keep you from doing things you shouldn't. I thought I should just be clear. The document cannot prevent problems. It cannot prevent conflict, nor will it save you from the pain of those conflicts. When we choose to live in relationship with others, we will be hurt. That is the reality of being human. What this document can do is it can serve as a way to reflect together on how, as a congregation, we have learned and grown and changed since that horrible crash that we've experienced. And it can serve those here and now and those who will join us as a framework to help them show up with all of who they are. Now, covenant language, historically speaking, is this mutual exchange of promises and agreements between parties. So-and-so agrees to do such and such, so-and-so agrees to do such, and if so-and-so and so-and-so don't do such and such, here's what happens. It needs to be entered into, and this is important, voluntarily, because coerced behavior is the exact opposite of the authenticity that a right relationships covenant is striving for. This is what makes a covenant different from a legal document, okay? A legal document says, we don't care who you are or what you think or what you believe or why you believe any of those things. All we care is that you do the thing, right? When you sign a contract to buy a house, nobody cares whether or not you've lost your job and you can't make your mortgage. They just care that you didn't pay by the 15th of the month. Okay, and so the contract has all of these clauses for when you do something against this contract, here's how we're going to enforce the problem. That is not what we are talking about in this covenantal language of a religious community. What we are talking about here is this is our goal. This is our ideal. Like, when I am at my best self, this is who I want to be. And then there's a part of the document that says, and when I'm not my best self, which is going to happen because I'm a human being and I've got all kinds of things in my life, here's the process that we're going to work through together so that we can get back to a happier, more whole, more complete, more authentic version of ourselves. And you know what? Sometimes we're going to work through that process and I'm still going to be mad at you. I just want to make that clear because we don't necessarily have complete control over our emotions, right? What we can control is our response to them. But even that takes a lot of work, and that's the whole point of this process, is to give us a process to say, okay, I'm feeling some horrifically strong emotion right now, and I really just want to reach out and do something I totally shouldn't. But I want to be in relationship with this person, so how do I do that? And it gives us the framework for how we do the thing. The other thing is that this is not about coercion. This is not me coming in and saying, okay, I'm the minister, I have all the answers, here's the document, sign at the bottom line. That would be a legal contract. What a covenant says is, here's some ideas, what do you think? And then you say, hey, I think that's great. And you say, well, why don't we do it this way? And I say, okay, what makes you think that? And we go back and forth because it's a mutual exchange. This covenant sets the bar for behavior while also offering ways to reconcile with one another and to atone when that bar is not reached. Because we're all human and we're all going to fail. It is not, as they say often in monastic societies, how often you fall, but how often you get up that matters. It needs to be able to flex and to change while also offering some boundaries that provide structure. So covenants, if you want to think about it in this way, are kind of these ideal parameters, things that we agree to, things that we want to live up to. They represent our hopes and our dreams, but they also build in some realities, knowing that we're flawed and fallible, and that even the best people with the best intentions stumble. Now, almost inevitably, when we talk about covenants, we go back to the Jewish scriptures, and we start talking about the covenants from the Hebrew Bible. And they're almost always a covenant that God, this divine figure, makes with human beings. The first one that we see recorded, you can debate whether Adam gets one, but Abraham gets a covenant. Moses gets a covenant. The people of Israel get a covenant. These are big, important things in the Jewish tradition that really shape who they are and what they feel is important. But one covenant that gets overlooked a lot is the covenant that God makes with Jacob. Now, Jacob is, frankly, a rotten human being. He's just a terrible, terrible person. He has no boundaries. He has no sense of self. He's greedy. He's a liar. He's a cheat. He's just a terrible, terrible example of what it means to be a human being. In fact, his name, Jacob, means grabber or trickster. And he is shown from the outset as being absolutely obsessed with being the rich heir to his father. He lies, he cheats, he steals, he even works witchcraft to get his way and to come out on top. He cheats his way to riches, he steals the birthright from his brother, he swindles and is swindled by his extended family. This dude is just a mess. He goes through several chapters in the book of Genesis just doing everything wrong and building up so much animosity towards him that at some point, all the consequences of his bad life choices are coming to a head. His brother is coming with an army to kill him, and he can see his army, and so his family runs away. His wives and his children are like, peace out, dude, not our problem. And they hit the road. And Jacob finds himself alone in the dark. Now, this is usually the point in like a modern fantasy story where the hero has some sort of revelation about all the bad things that they've done, and they decide that they're going to change and make amends, and there's some glorific scene, and everything turns out okay. That is not what happens to Jacob. What happens to Jacob is he's alone in the darkness, waiting for his brother to cross the river and murder him, and some guy shows up. The text is really weird. The Hebrew in here is so weird. It says this entity comes and grabs him and starts fighting with him out of nowhere. Like there's nobody anywhere. And somehow this person just shows up and starts fighting with him. And the text says that they struggled and fought until dawn. Now, why this shadowy entity has to leave at dawn is not talked about. We don't know. But Jacob refuses to let go. And so the figure says, let me go and I will bless you. And Jacob, who must be worn out if he's been wrestling with this guy all night long, lets go. And the guy, instead of just saying, here's your blessing, be blessed, he goes, okay, and he whacks him on the hip and actually damages his hip to the point he can barely walk after that. So Jacob does get a blessing and a new name, but he also gets a permanent disability from his struggle with this mysterious entity. The name that he is given isn't even that nice. Usually they get names, Abram becomes Abraham, the father of many nations. Sarai, princess, becomes Sarah, the mother of the nations. All these people get these lovely names in Hebrew. Jacob's name is the one who fights. That's his name. Israel means the one who fights with God. Now, the funny thing about this is that he literally grabs onto this figure and forces a covenant out of them. And while his life is spared, as I said, he is deeply wounded and he never recovers. His name now will tell everyone that he fights with God. He can't get away from his past. He and his brother are reconciled, but he is never free from this pain and this fear. And thousands of years later, probably 3,500 years later, we are still talking about what a loser this guy was. I want to make that clear because this covenant gives us insight for how a covenant between wounded, imperfect, ordinary human beings can look like. I don't think that the majority of you are out there stealing your sibling's birthright and, murdering people and cheating to get a spouse. So I think we're doing a little bit better than Jacob so far. Just a little bit. Jacob teaches us that covenants can come from a place of difficult emotions. Yes, they have to be agreed to, but we can be in the middle of some really deep, hard things and still be in covenant. Jacob was convinced his brother was going to murder him as soon as he could see him in the sunlight. He was absolutely certain that he was abandoned and entirely alone. And yet he was able to work through and come up with a covenant. Second, covenants can come from wildly different perspectives. And I think this is really important for this congregation as we start talking about stay or go. We're going to come at this from all these different places and all these different perspectives. You've got a new minister that's going to be coming on board. Some of you are going to have feelings about this. Some of you are going to have feelings like that. It's going to be all over the place, okay? In the beginning of Jacob's story, he gets a covenant with God just because God feels like it, literally. Jacob goes to sleep after running away because he's just cheated his brother. And when he sleeps, he has this dream. And so he gets this covenant, not because he earned it, but because the divine in this story is benevolent. But later, when he thinks his brother is about to kill him, when he's all alone in the darkness of the night, he gets a covenant because of his tenacity and his willingness to fight. Throughout this story, the divine and Jacob do not speak. They don't really have conversations, right? You get a couple of snippets of let me go, no, fine, I'll give you a name. But you don't get these long conversations like you get between Adam and God or between Abraham and God. Moses talks to God all the time. Jacob doesn't get that. Jacob never understands God. And frankly, the text doesn't make it sound like God understands Jacob. Why else did they fight so much? But they were able to be in a covenant with one another, even with Jacob's flaws. And the third thing, and this is also important, is that covenants change over time. No one agreement can cover everything that people or a congregation will go through in their entire lives. I mean, one of the great philosophical and theological debates is whether we're the same people throughout our lives or not. For myself, I can say that the me that is standing here in this pulpit right now is not the same as the person I was before I lost my child. I can look back and I can say, yeah, we've got some memories in common, we've got some ideals in common, but she and I are two very different people. So the covenants that the past me made, like my marriages, have had to change and update with the introduction of these new experiences, new information, and new challenges. A right relationships covenant is not about locking people into a place and time. It is about meeting folks where you are right now and offering a framework for how we can live together even when we have profound and difficult times. We can do this even when we don't agree. We can do this even when our own personal problems and traumas and emotions are overwhelming. There's an entire process for difficult conversations that we've talked about and that we'll keep talking about that will help us in handling these emotions. The practices of mental health care, whether it be with a professional counselor, a spiritual director, a valued friend, all of these sorts of care options that we have are important. This helps us to go through this one step at a time. Whenever one or more of us is in that place of strong emotions, this kind of covenant offers us a way as a group to help process it instead of just letting it wreck our relationship. We can agree to be in covenant because of our flaws, not just in spite of them. We do not have to fully understand ourselves or others to agree that we want to work together. By building in a process to make the covenant a living thing, not this static object, but a living thing that grows and changes over time, just as we do, we can take this, instead of it just being a document, and we can make it a way of looking at our lives together. As we go from this place today, we go into a discussion of how to do that, of how to be together, especially when it is hard. My prayer for each of us today is that we can go from being whatever kind of Jacob we may have in our past to being Israel, a people who struggles and strives with our highest ideals and desires, refusing to let go of what we hold to be as important, as divine, even when it is hard. Amen and blessed be. Our final hymn this morning is number 354, We Laugh, We Cry.
ask Paula if you could hand out the offertory basket. She's going to be walking around. I'm going to offer you the gentle reminder that this community of faith is supported only by your giving. Stewardship is more than just financial donations, but is also about donating time and talent to help our church. If you can't write a check, please help our church survive and thrive by offering your time to help maintain the building, make coffee, bring snacks, serve as an usher, serve on other committees, and helping on with worship on occasion. Please donate as you can with your time, talent, or treasure. All are needed for our church to prosper. If you would prefer to just send your gift, financial gift, in the mail, you can send it to P.O. Box 494, Alton, Illinois, 62002, or you can give electronically through Givelify or PayPal, which is all found on the church's webpage. If you're willing to donate your time or talent, please contact a board member. Let us know what you would like to do or can do to help. Give what you will and what you are able, because you are a generous, generous people. So please join me with our offering prayer. Please join me in the offering prayer. May this offering equip us to inspire love and to seek justice. We have a few announcements, maybe more than a few, but we're good. I'm going to start with, if you're a visitor and would like to receive our monthly newsletter and weekly informational flyer via email, or just want more information about the church, please fill out the visitor card located on the visitor information table by the windows in the fellowship hall. Put the card in the basket on the table, and we will get that for you. If you would like a name badge, they're pretty, and I like them, and Mary does a great job. So if you would like a name badge, and it helps us to get to know your name, please fill out one of the blue name tag request forms on the visitors table and put that form in the basket. As you've already heard, after church today, we're going to do our Right Relationships Covenant. We're going to start at 11:15, and we will also have people virtual, hoping people will show up, which will be good. I'm pleased to announce we have a nursery individual now. Her name is Marcella Horvath. She's a good friend of mine. She and her fiance. I'm going to be in their wedding in October. I'm excited. But Marcella works as a teacher, teacher's aide, basically, at a school in Collinsville, and she will be working in the nursery and working hand in hand with Carol to make sure our kids this summer are getting support. And then in the fall, she will work primarily in the nursery while we do RE with the other little kids. So that's where we're at there. So welcome her when you see her. I'm sure she's in the nursery right now working with Carol. Also, I'm pleased to announce that Nancy McGilson has agreed to serve as treasurer. Yay! She's already been doing the hard work. Now she gets the title. So we appreciate that very much. And we really do appreciate your time. You've been invaluable. You've helped us manage so many things, Nancy. It's like my heart thanks you. I love you. Lastly, stewardship. I know it's that time of year. You know, our goal, we're still haven't gotten what our goal will be. It's somewhere around 65, maybe 70. We want to do some good things, and so we need people to make donations. So you will get via mail information from me and Buddy sometime soon. For me, Buddy, and the board. The board is supporting stewardship this year. It's not just an individual doing it. And we will be reaching out to you to ask you what you can donate. I would also ask you, too, on the stewardship side of things. Again, we have Krista coming in here soon. We have very little money right now in our minister's discretionary fund. I would like to see if we could get those dollar amounts up. So in that, we'll also ask you if you're willing to make donations to support that, whether it's a one-time thing or a sustainable. Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you. I realize there's a lot of people here that may not understand what that means. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Our minister's discretionary fund is basically the fund that we give with no strings attached to the minister to write a check to somebody who needs a gas coupon or food at the table. So that gives them some freedom to be able to support people without board oversight. It's usually a separate account entirely for them, kind of do what they need to do. Anything that you want to add to that? That's it. Yeah. So it could do a whole host of things. Yeah. We've used this for others. For example, we had about 2 years ago, we had people reach out that they were living in a house that had no working appliances, and so we helped support, making sure somebody got a used stove, but a stove nonetheless they could use in their house, right? So those kinds of things. When someone comes here needing support, we need our minister to know that they can write a checkbook out and make sure that gets taken care of. So that's what we're hoping. You can make a sustainable donation through Givelify if you want to do that. It just auto sends, $10 a month that can be targeted specifically for the minister's fund. So I just putting it out there. We can work that out, and also we can talk. I think we've talked in the past about. I know usually when there's 5 Sundays in the past, we let the 5th Sunday be the minister's discretionary fund collection, and we may choose to go back to that. We just haven't done that for a long time because we really haven't been here for a long time. So you know how that goes. Lastly, there was this really. Was this the you told me about this, Paul? Was it you, Marty, or Charla? Thank you. This is so beautiful. I want to share this. Can I do that? Thank you. I care not one whit what you believe. Not one atom do I care. The one important thing for me to know is this, that you are entitled to my compassionate consideration. You are entitled to my respect. You are entitled to my kindest wishes, to my deepest encouragement. And you are entitled to nothing from me but that which means love and charity and loving kindness. And you must not get anything else from me, which is Edward Kimball from 1906. What a beautiful, beautiful sentiment, and that really helps support where we're headed this afternoon, for the next couple of hours, to think about what we owe each other as part of this covenant. And I hope that this will guide us through this. So thank you for this. This is beautiful. I'll do this right here so we don't forget this. We can read this every Sunday. I like that. I can imagine. When Paula sent it to me, I went. It took my breath away. I'm like, oh gosh, this is good. I think I would like to keep that as part of the announcements every week. So just as a reminder, for each other. So thank you for bringing that. All right, I am going to invite you to join me in. Oh, actually, let me ask. Any other announcements that I missed? We're good for 4th Saturday. Okay, good. Anything else? All right, good. So I invite you to join me in reciting a prayer as we extinguish the chalice. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are keepers of this flame until we meet again. And it's get out of your way. Oops, sorry. I'm a disaster opener.
But you are a disaster of infinite worth and value.
Thank you. I appreciate that too.
We end this moment together only for another moment to arise, one from the next like waves on a shore, each moment a chance to deepen our own heart song to all that we hold sacred. May the faces and voices of those in this place ever reflect to us what we hold most dear, and may we be for others the reflection that they need to keep going for another day. Amen, and blessed be.
you're welcome to join us for fellowship for a few minutes, and then at 11:15 we'll be back in here. We'll have Zoom projected, and Claudia will work with us to lead us through a discussion on developing this covenant. So thank you, everybody.